Gothic horror has been one of the most intriguing subgenres of horror since the silent era of the 1920s. Extreme creativity fuels the nightmares of these Gothic films, as well as the common motif of the macabre. But what are the best Gothic horror movies of all time? Let's find out in this episode.
What's up, movie friends? Welcome back to Raiders of the Lost podcast, the ultimate film and TV podcast. And we just saw Nosferatu, Robert Eggers' amazing film, and we thought, let's do something very holiday-spirited. And what's more holiday-spirited than Gothic horror?
Depends on the holiday.
Yeah, it depends on the holiday. Gothic horror is one of my favorite genres, and it especially became heavily pronounced in the cinematic world in the 1940s and 50s after the silent film era. You get filmmakers like Alfred Hitchcock making things like Rebecca, and The Innocents is an amazing film. Eyes Without a Face. There are so many great classic Gothic horror films, but then we got so many amazing modern ones as well that I can't wait to get into. I love the horror genre, and this is a subgenre from the slashers, from supernatural, from demonic, and it's allows for filmmakers to be extremely creative. Artisans making beautiful sets and lighting, photography. They get to really do whatever they want to make something feel extraordinary and otherworldly. And I love the Gothic genre. A lot of the great novels of history are in the genre, so that makes for some of the greatest films of all time adapted from them. So I can't wait to get into this list. What do you think defines Gothic horror movie for you? If you're going to say, what are the things the traits for it?
I think the aesthetic is very important because you can have a Gothic horror comedy, Gothic horror sci-fi, Gothic horror straight up. It doesn't really matter exactly being specifically just a horror film. I think the aesthetic is really important. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter about time period either. It can be a present day, contemporary Gothic horror film. It can be a period piece. Most of them are period pieces. And then, just a fascination with death, hauntings, supernatural beings, werewolves, vampires, those are often there. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, I think it's the visuals, the aesthetic, the mood that all help fuel and build what a movie is and what makes it a Gothic film.
Yeah, I agree.
Darkness, shadows, the wardrobe. But it's a lot of things fall into that category, like most film categories. They can be large and ambiguous, and there's a big umbrella of films, the large umbrella of films that fall into Gothic horror. But at the end of the day, most of them are period pieces. Most of them have, people speaking in British accents.
There are a lot.
But also they can be wearing suits in the 1960s and still be a Gothic horror film. I think the death has to be a part of it. Death has to be a motif, has to be a part of the storytelling, whether it's haunting or murder, supernatural, something like that. That all has to be part of a Gothic film.
And it doesn't always have to have a movie monster, and it doesn't have to be supernatural. It doesn't have to have a vampire. There are so many great Gothic tales that have nothing to do with actual monsters or mythical, supernatural entities of any kind. Sometimes it's just people, but the stories are Gothic in nature.
Dark, takes place at night a lot.
Yes, and the tone of the films, the visual tone as well as the narrative tone, I think really set it into the genre. So let's get going. And I'd like you to take it off with modern film. The first one on this list is pretty contemporary.
The Wolfman from 2010, starring Benicio del Toro, Emily Blunt, and Anthony Hopkins. This is a pretty solid remake. It wasn't amazing, directed by Joe Johnston. There's a lot of hopes that this would set up a new MonsterVerse for Universal. Fell short of expectations and box office performance on a massive budget of $150 million. This is a huge leading role for Benicio. I think he's a superb actor, and he was a great choice for the Wolfman. But at the end of the day, the script really let this story down, like many horror films and many just movies in general. Everything's there to execute a good movie, but at the end of the day, sometimes the story gets in the way of itself, and it doesn't exactly know what it wants to be at many times. It's pretty scary at times. Emily Blunt's great in this film as well. But I remember being very excited about this film. One of our most anticipated that year. 2010 was a good year for film. We had Inception come out that year too.
Damn.
And The Wolfman definitely let me down because it's such a great character. Werewolf movies are so hard to pull off. I thought they were going to do it, but unfortunately it just didn't land.
It seemed to have all the ingredients. But
still pretty good though.
Yeah. Great score from Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
That was the highlight of the film. I had that album on CD playing in my car all the time. But it just didn't quite pull through. Next up at number 53, we have The Innkeepers from Ty West. Before he got into the slasher genre, or actually, before he got into the slasher genre, he did this one, his second film. The Innkeepers is a really cool supernatural thriller. It's not amazing. It's not his best work, but it is pretty solid. It's about these two people who work at a small hotel, and supernatural stuff starts happening. So they begin investigating it of their own accord, and it doesn't really go that well for them. However, there's some good comedy in this. Sarah Paxton, Pat Healy are the two main leads in this. Lena Dunham has a fun little cameo. Kelly McGillis. It's a good movie. Overall, it's not super scary, but it has a really good final 5 minutes, I think, that really saves the film.
Next, yeah, you know what? The Year of Ty West.
Didn't start this year.
It didn't start.
It didn't start in
never
2011.
It's never ended. But
It's never ended.
I like The Innkeepers a lot. I had a good.
That's why I put it on for you.
Yeah, because I went through all of his filmography around that time, and I thought The Innkeeper was pretty scary.
It's pretty good.
I think I threw a pillow watching
It's
that one.
really the last 10 minutes is the best part of the movie.
Let's talk about a Daniel Radcliffe film next. At number 52, we have The Woman in Black. This came out in 2012. I think this was a really smart move for him post Harry Potter. I think I remember this was his first big movie after Deathly Hallows Part 2. And I think it was smart to go in the direction of horror, something more mature. He plays a father in this movie. And I think that was important to let people know, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm not just going to be in family-friendly movies to an extent, even though those last movies are pretty hardcore. But now I'm going to be in a haunted movie with a ghost, and it's a period piece, which he fits really well, and I think he fits well in any different kind of time period. And he's phenomenal. He's a great lead actor, and this is a really good role for him. It's really juicy. It's got a great ending, and it's also very scary. I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. I remember seeing it in theaters, and I didn't really know what it was going to be like. I didn't have much expectations for it at the time. But I remember being like, oh, that was fucking pretty good. This is a good horror movie. It's very solid. They made a sequel that's not that great. But, at the end of the day, it's a really solid movie when it works on its own.
The Return of the Woman in Black.
It's something like, what's it called? The Woman in Black?
Something, I can't remember.
The Death Angel or
something, yeah, I think you're right.
The Woman in Black.
I enjoyed the film. I've seen it a couple of times, and it's pretty scary. It was good in the theater. Great sound.
Angel of Death.
Angel of Death. You were pretty close.
Campy. That's too camp.
I was impressed with Radcliffe. I was impressed with the filmmaking, and it was a very solid haunted house movie. And he's in this new estate, and he's being haunted by the Woman in Black. So this is actually based on, I'm not sure if it's a novel, but it is based on a stage play, a theatrical play, and it's very interactive with the audience. So this it's been playing at the West End for years, and so the Woman in Black, they actually interact with the audience and have the Woman in Black spirit enter on different areas of the theater, inside the audience, behind the audience. And so it actually throws the audience off and makes them feel terrified because the scene would be taking place on stage, but then the Woman in Black will appear like to the right of the audience off stage. And they made it a really interactive, interesting show. And so I think that the Woman in Black was a very solid adaptation. I really enjoyed it. All right, next up we have the first big action movie of this list. It might be the only giant action movie on this list. Van Helsing, starring Hugh Jackman as the title character, Kate Beckinsale, as well as pretty much every monster Universal has. They threw everything but the kitchen sink at this movie. This was a fun time. I really liked Van Helsing as a kid. It's not really that strong of a story or a narrative, but I mean, if they made another one of these, I'd probably turn out for that. I think it'd be pretty cool, but it was great to see the blend of horror on a PG level so that you can have a lot of young people see this film like us. And it's just fun action, great filmmaking, really good visual effects for the time. Overall, a little too convoluted. There's just way too many characters in this movie. They could have done a really interesting franchise. I think Hugh Jackman was a great choice for Van Helsing. However, if they had just done one villain per movie, they could have had probably 3 or 4 solid films, but they put every monster in this movie, so I think that took away from it. Obviously, Dracula being the big bad of this film, and I didn't love how it turned into a giant Hulk fight at the end, with Van turned into a giant muscled werewolf, and then Dracula turned into a giant muscled vampire, and I didn't love the ending, especially as a fan of horror fiction and great horror classics. It was just like, wait, that was too Hollywoodized for like the action Hollywood era. That being said, there are some really good elements to this. I like the wives of Dracula in this film a lot. Really cool production design.
I like them too. I like Kate in this movie too.
Kate's great in every movie.
Kate's the Gothic girl.
Yeah, I mean, this and Underworld. Yeah, she's absolutely. But overall, it was a good movie. It hasn't aged that well, and unfortunately, it didn't spawn a big franchise like it could have.
Next up, Saoirse Ronan was in a vampire movie back in 2012. In case you didn't know, it's called Byzantium. It's pretty damn solid. It's based on a young adult play, not a young adult book, but actually a play this time. And she plays a member of a group of female vampires who are runaways and are exiled and seek refuge in a British community. It's got good gore. It's got some pretty strong scenes and moments of intense maturity that maybe not everyone can handle, but it's a really, really solid vampire flick.
Yeah, it's a good time. Great production. Really interesting story. And it was a little different from the vampire film. And next up, we have The Crow.
Yeah.
The 1994 one, not the new one. And this is obviously a classic, especially with the visuals from Alex Proyas, Brandon Lee being a perfect choice for the role. Really just incredible atmosphere, great filmmaking, macabre story, the story of vengeance, and its perfect grunge 90s aesthetic. Obviously paved the way and became a cult classic, so much so that nobody ever wants it to get made again, and when it did, it was destroyed before it came out. I think The Crow is visually stunning and a really great piece of cinematic culture for the 90s.
Let's talk about a Gore Verbinski film next. At number 48, we have a Dane Dehan, Mia Goth, and Jason Isaac starring horror film that I totally forgot about.
It's great.
Man, this came out 2016.
Yeah.
And it's about a stockbroker who...
Did you say the name of the movie yet?
Oh, yeah, sorry. No, yeah, I said A Cure for Wellness.
Okay.
A Cure for Wellness. Give me the plot synopsis, because I remember seeing this years ago, but I can't remember exactly the way it goes.
So Dane Dehan plays a guy who's investigating disappearance, and he ends up at this mental institution where Jason Isaacs plays the leader of the institution, and he's very strange and weird stuff's going on. Mia Goth plays not an inmate, but a person there who's there for some kind of mental disorder. There's really strange stuff going on, and Dane Dehan, as he investigates what's happening in the hospital, he ends up kind of getting locked into Jason Isaacs' grip. There's some really crazy imagery. He's experimenting on people with eels, which is very cool. And ultimately, this is just a visually stunning, ridiculously strange, and horrifying Gothic horror tale. I think it's so well done, so well crafted. It's a really interesting story. And then you get a couple of young actors who are really respected nowadays, but it's a really stunning film. Good follow-up from Pirates and Rango. Next up, we have the first Tim Burton movie on this list, but not the last. Sleepy Hollow, which I think is just a great adaptation of the legend of Sleepy Hollow, the Headless Horseman story that we all grow up hearing and reading about and learning in school. It's a great tale to learn about during the Halloween season. This is a really fun adaptation. It balances both tragedy, horror, drama, and really cringy comedy pretty well. And Johnny Depp is hilarious as Ichabod Crane. Christopher Walken's perfectly cast as the Headless Horseman. All he does is scream. And the cast is great. Michael Gambon's in this. I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
Christina
Ricci's in this as well. It's visually stunning. I think that Tim Burton in the Gothic landscape is like the director of contemporary eras. And Sleepy Hollow is visually beautiful. Great score from Danny Elfman. Really fun story. I love the visual effects. The practical filmmaking is great. These sets and the production design are outstanding. It has a great eerie tone to it, but it also has a lightness to it as well, thanks to Johnny Depp's performance. Some of it doesn't quite work, but for the most part, this movie flies, I think.
He's great as Ichabod Crane because he's this cowardly Sherlock Holmes type character, and he plays it so well. It's very slapstick at times, but it maintains that serious Gothic tone despite that humor. It's a really, really good, it's a really well-made movie, and I love the visuals of this movie. I like Sleepy Hollow a lot.
I'd say it's one of Tim Burton's best-looking movies.
And, speaking of Burton, just to warn people, we don't have Edward Scissorhands on this list because
it's not a horror.
It's not a horror. That's a fantasy romance film. Fantasy romance film, so that's why we're not going to put it on here.
It's Gothic, but it's not Gothic
Very
horror.
Gothic.
Yeah.
It's Gothic as hell.
It's not a horror.
What is a horror movie is The Witch from Robert Eggers, his first film directorial feature debut starring Anya Taylor-Joy. We all know The Witch. We did a great review and episode of Robert Eggers a couple weeks ago. Director Spotlight talked about The Witch quite a lot. And it's just a sensational debut film of this family who are exiled from their religious part of their religious community, and they're alone in the woods until they are coerced by the devil and a witch to, well, Anya Taylor-Joy's character is coerced by the devil to become a witch, Thomasin, eventually after the downfall of her family. It's basically a witch origin story. It looks incredible. You don't see the sun once. It's just overcast or night constantly.
It's true.
And it's
true.
Really a very impressive debut film from Eggers.
I never thought of that. Yeah, you never see the sun in that movie.
You never do. Imagine if they're scheduled to shoot and the sun comes up. So we gotta wait. We gotta wait a couple days, guys.
No sun in this one.
Can't shoot today.
Next up, we have from 1973, Don't Look Now, starring Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie. Julie Christie, they play a couple whose one of their children dies by drowning, and to get over the grief, they move themselves and their other child to Venice to start a new business and just build a new life. Donald Sutherland, however, begins noticing strange behaviors of some people, and they seem to be having a strange pull on his wife, and odd stuff happening. There's deaths. There's strange occurrences happening. As he investigates, he finds himself down this wormhole of mystery, of horror, of suspense, leading to an absolutely grisly and terrifying conclusion with a shocking finale that will shake you to your core. Highly recommend Don't Look Now if you haven't seen it.
All right, next up we have another Tim Burton film, Tim Burton's Corpse Bride, that he co-directed with Mike Johnson. This came out 2005. Really excellent stop-motion film about this character, played by Johnny Depp, obviously, Victor, who, on the day of his wedding, as he's practicing his vows in the forest, gets killed by a tree branch, which brings him down to hell and the undead, and he has to try to reach back above ground to the living at some point to try to prevent his wife from getting married again. And it's a really special movie. And only I think Tim Burton's one of the rare directors who can make something so dark and twisted, so beautiful and romantic at the same time.
And for kids.
Yeah.
It's funny, some of the best gothic horrors of the contemporary era are animated.
It's how
Kids'
all these
movies.
little emo kids get made. I liked Corpse Bride a lot.
I think I was an emo kid at heart, but I was afraid to dress like an emo kid.
Well, I mean, I guess. What?
Yeah.
Well,
Or a goth kid, I mean.
were you think you were a goth kid at heart? Why?
It's kind of. I don't know. I always liked horror stuff,
Yeah,
and it was very different.
it doesn't mean you have to put yourself in a
Yeah, I never wanted to put myself
section.
in a box.
You don't have to label yourself. Oh, I have to
I'm
commit.
me.
I have to commit to being a goth kid, so I have to wear red and black striped pants, and
Skulls and
you don't have to do the whole thing, which is fine. I mean, you don't have to shop at Hot Topic if you don't want to.
We got posters at Hot Topic.
Yeah, Hot Topic had. I mean, they had skater stuff too and all kinds
Yeah.
of stuff. But
little knickknacks.
just because you like horror doesn't mean, just because you like comedy movies doesn't mean you have to be a stand-up comedian.
That's true, man.
You know?
You're right. I don't have to.
You
be in
can
a
be
box.
whatever you want and like whatever you want.
Yeah, I can be everything.
There's
I like
nothing wrong
everything.
with being a goth kid or an emo
I
kid.
like them all.
We all like what we like.
No, yeah, it's not saying there's nothing wrong with being a goth kid.
Yeah,
I
but
never said that.
I don't think you're a goth kid.
All right. Yeah,
Like,
I guess
in
not.
that category, you're not a goth kid.
Yeah. I mean, I liked sports too much too.
Yeah, you like Brady too much
Yeah.
to be a goth kids don't like Brady.
Goth kids don't play Madden.
Exactly.
That's true. You're right. I wasn't.
Excuse
Pardon
me.
me. All right, next up we have a Japanese horror film from 1977, House, which is one of the most batshit crazy movies you'll ever see. And it's a perfect gothic horror film with slapstick humor, insane imagery, great practical filmmaking, special effects, and visual effects up the wazoo. It's about 6 friends who travel to one of their aunt's home, and crazy stuff starts happening, supernatural events, incredible horrific events, and it's an absolute blast. Really fun. Fans of cats will love this movie. There's a severed head that's just alive, and it's just really ridiculous, but visually stunning. One of the most interesting looking films on this list, without a doubt.
Let's talk about a very early Guillermo del Toro film, Kronos, from 1994. His first collaboration, I believe, with Ron Perlman as well. And this is about, it's basically a vampire film. It's about this older priest who stumbles across a several hundred-year-old scarab, 400-year-old scarab called Kronos, and it latches onto him and grants him eternal life and youth and vitality. However, he also is consumed with an obsession and craving for blood, this intense thirst, as well as we have other parties interested in this scarab that try to get it from him. But this priest, will not give up that immortality easily. Once you get it, you don't want to let it go, man.
And it's a cool device. It takes a little bit of blood from you to keep to keep that presence within you, and it's constantly pulling away from your humanity. It's a really cool movie. Great concept. At number 41, we have the original Frankenstein, which is almost 100 years old at 1931.
Whoa!
7 years away from its 100th anniversary, which is crazy, from James Whale. This is the iconic classic from Universal, the pre-code science fiction horror film. Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster became landmarks in the horror genre. This is a sensational film, really solid story. It's a breakneck pace, and it shows about the errors of humanity and what a monster truly is, and innocence and purity compared to monstrosity and creation. So there's a lot of great themes in this film, and Frankenstein is an all-time classic.
All right, let's talk about another monster, the original, the Wolfman from 1941, starring Lon Chaney Jr., as well as Bela Lugosi. This is fantastic. We talked about this in depth when we did our Universal Monster movie a couple months ago.
Oh, yeah.
And this is really what started all with the Wolfman, and really great practical filmmaking of the transformation, which is very famous, of the
dissolves.
of his feet,
Yeah.
the dissolving as he grows, as well as his hands, adding the claws and the fur and the hair. And it's a really solid story. We have that romance element in there as well. We have the mystery of these objects, these artifacts, going to the antique shop, getting the silver object.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just wonderful. And, this is what you hope that a new Wolfman movie can sort of do in this era, is revitalize this story, because there's so much potential there. I have a lot of high hopes for Lee Wannell's Wolfman.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can really set the stage going forward for Universal monster movies. They did a great job with The Invisible Man. But like we said, 2010's Wolfman was underwhelming, not great. But I think if Lee Wannell can nail Wolfman in January next year, Universal set up really well to take a really great new approach to their Universal monsters and really get us back to the world of great monster movies.
One of the reasons why I really love these old horror films is they were the cutting edge of filmmaking technology, and like the visual effects in Frankenstein with the lightning and electricity and everything, the Wolfman transformation, it's just dissolves, and we've seen that so many times today, and it's aged. We're very adept with filmmaking techniques now. It doesn't look that impressive maybe to a young viewer, but at the time, nobody had ever seen anything like that before, and so that effect, it really looked like he was growing into a wolf in that era. And so the Gothic horror genre, especially with a lot of the Universal monster movies, were really at the forefront of filmmaking. Next up, we have Constantine. John Constantine, asshole. Absolutely a Gothic horror movie. I don't care what anyone says.
It is, yeah.
There's so much dark imagery and the visual effects and cinematography. I really love this film. You know how much we like it. We've talked about it a lot. I think Constantine is just one of the best comic book adaptations that's ever been done. I love Keanu in this. I love Francis Lawrence's approach and his tone and his direction for this adaptation of the material. I think it's a really cool modern horror film that blends both heaven and hell, action, horror, some really great visual effects, and a lot of great practical effects as well. I also really like the design of his hell. I think it's really interesting and one of my favorite sequences of the film. There's so many things and so many elements from horror films that I love that are all kind of mashed up into this film. Whether it be heaven and hell, whether it be supernatural, whether it be the beasts and monsters, ancient myths. There's so much to it, and I think that overall this is a home run for everyone involved.
Let's talk about a very creepy movie. The Orphanage at number 38, 2007 from Jay Boyena, who is one of the better blockbuster filmmakers out there today. He's made some really, really fantastic movies. Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom is a big one. Society of the Snow most recently, The Impossible. So this guy is killing it in Hollywood right now. And The Orphanage is a really creepy, really good original horror film about this woman who has really fond memories of her childhood orphanage that she grew up in, and she convinces her and her husband for them to buy the orphanage, turn it into a home for the sick, until their adopted son goes missing, and things start to get weird. We have some really creepy imagery.
Yeah.
The bag head on the little kid is just really terrifying, but I think it's a really solid horror movie.
Yeah, kids are terrifying.
Kids in horror movies, there's always
Can never trust them.
always something
Can
going
never
on.
trust them. At number 37, we have the second major adaptation of Nosferatu in 1979 from none other than Werner Herzog, the acclaimed filmmaker who can do pretty much anything. Klaus Kinski plays Count Orlok, Count Dracula, either one. And then Isabelle Adjani from Possession plays the Helen Mina character. In this film, she's called Lucy Harker. I love this film. This is honestly pretty faithful adaptation and remake of the original 1922 film. Only obviously it's in color, and the setting, the prosthetics, pretty similar. Visual effects are really great. The special effects are fantastic, and cinematography is outstanding. I like how this film opens. We get like these wandering shots of like skulls and skeletons in like this tomb-esque area, and it's a really cool opening for the film. But this film, this adaptation, it really feels like a faithful reimagining of the original in a great way. And we will tell you, the new Nosferatu, Robert Eggers made plenty of changes because you don't want to do just what Werner Herzog did, where he just made a great contemporary remake. Eggers changed it up enough to let it stand on its own, separate from this film, Nosferatu the Vampire. But it is a wonderful adaptation of the material. If you're interested in seeing what three great filmmakers, how they operate, how they're different from each other, it's cool to watch all Nosferatu films because all three of them, the major releases, are phenomenal movies.
Next up, number 36, Beetlejuice, 1988 from Tim Burton and the superb cast. We did an episode on Beetlejuice like a month and a half ago, before the new one came out. I like the new one a lot too. Beetlejuice was a lot of fun, but it doesn't really come too close to the original, which is just so unique, a diamond in the rough. Who would have thought this movie would work not only back then, but still today? People love Beetlejuice, and it's a generational movie in a lot of ways. And Michael Keaton as the title character, fantastic. Winona Ryder's wonderful. Catherine O'Hara. The cast is so great. It's so original, so campy, so funny. I love everything about it. The prosthetics, the monsters, the stop motion, the idea in general, the poltergeist concept, and Beetlejuice just being this vulgar, hilarious demon poltergeist ghost is just worth the price of every ticket and watch. And I just love Beetlejuice. It's so fun.
It just works on every level. It just flat out works, man. It's super fun. Next up, we have another Guillermo del Toro film. We all know he's no stranger to Gothic horror. And we have here The Devil's Backbone, which is all the way back in 2001, which is both an English and Spanish language film. It's about this young boy whose father has passed away, and he's taken to a orphanage. However, the adults there act strangely. They're very cruel and dominating. And there's also the ghost of another child wandering the halls. As the little boy investigates further and gets to learn more about this little boy, he discovers a horribly dark secret about this place. The Devil's Backbone.
All right. Jane Eyre is next on our list at number 34. Directed by the great Cary Joji Fukunaga. Came out in 2011, starring Mia Wasikowska and Michael Fassbender, Judi Dench, Jamie Bell. It's a tough film. You know, this is an emotionally draining movie. Our main character goes through a lot of abuse, leaves that abuse, finds more abuse, as well as terrifying mysteries revealed to her. And Wasikowski is really fantastic in this movie, but it is a dark film despite the period piece setting and despite not having, a monster in it or a demon or supernatural beings or hauntings, but it shows the depravity and evil nature of men.
At number 34, we have The Changeling, all the way back in, I think it's 1980, which is another ghost story about this man who moves into this home, and he is haunted by a boy who drowned in a bathtub years prior. This is great imagery, incredible performance from your lead actor, striking filmmaking, and great score and mood. This is just one of the great just haunted house movies that not many people know about, so check out The Changeling.
Next, we have a Netflix movie. I think one of my favorite Netflix movies over the years. The Pale Blue Eye, starring Christian Bale and Harry Melling, I'm sorry. Directed by Scott Cooper, period piece of Christian Bale playing a detective investigating a murder with the help of a young cadet in the army who goes on to become the famous writer and poet Edgar Allan Poe, who is Edgar Allan Poe. So really interesting story. The filmmaking is astounding. Great production design. You're really engrossed in this world from over 100 years ago. And Christian Bale, Melling are terrific together. They have great chemistry. And Melling is very impressive. This is the first thing I'd really seen him in since the Harry Potter franchise. And clearly, I didn't know that he was this talented because I was just taken aback. And, he's keeping up with Christian Bale, who's one of the best all time, with no problem, it seems like. He's kind of the lead of this movie. And it's a really, really fantastic script, and I think it's really solid. It's not the best movie ever made. It doesn't quite stick its landing as well as it could, but overall, it's a very solid period piece in Gothic horror film.
Well, for me, I think the ending saved it.
Mm-hmm.
It has an amazing twist, and it's really the middle act is a little clunky, but it's still great. That's why we have it pretty low in this list, because I think it's visually so incredibly made, so well acted, like James said, and Melling and Bale are perfect opposite each other. But it's really that middle act that just like slowed down a little bit too much. But once things get going in the third act, it's phenomenal. I remember the twist happened, and James and I were like, oh, we did not see that coming.
That's right.
We did not see that coming. I thought it was a great ending. And it's probably, the best Edgar Allan Poe adaptation there is. Because they often aren't. The House of Usher is a good one. But this is a really great film adaptation of an Edgar Allan Poe material.
Robert Eggers made an Edgar Allan Poe adaptation before he was... When he was still
short.
Just independent filmmaker. A 30-minute movie.
It's the servant taking care of the old man.
Yeah, the one with the body under the floorboards.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't remember what's it called. Anyways.
I can't remember either, but I think he mashed together a couple of stories. But it's really cool if you want to check it out. It's on YouTube. But Pale Blue Eye is awesome. Speaking of Eggers, we're at The Lighthouse for number 32, which is just one of the best films to come out of A24. One of the great contemporary horror films, visually so outstanding. The performances from Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson are amazing. I love just watching the two of them fall into madness together. The imagery is great. The story is so cool. The score is phenomenal. I think that this is just such a great rewatch. It's super fun. I think it's absolutely hysterical. So many great things are blended together, whether you have supernatural horror, mythical stories, fart jokes, lots of drinking, and just absolute utter madness. I think that The Lighthouse is so fun, and I really adore it.
Back to the 1930s, 1932, we have Vampire from Germany. German expressionism was so powerful back then, and Vampire was one of the better ones. And it's a vampire story. Great filmmaking. The use of shadows, really impressive in this film and really unique. That, I think Robert Eggers got a ton of influence from.
Definitely.
For his film Nosferatu. When you see that in theaters, you'll understand what we're talking about. The use of shadows as physical imagery and as a spiritual power in a film. This is sort of a classic vampire movie. It's really beautiful. It's really gorgeous. And if you've never seen it, can't recommend it enough.
At number 30, we have a movie that just keeps earning money at the box office every year. They just keep dropping it because people turn out. And that's Coraline. I've never seen a movie like this that's released yearly.
It is. It's 2 years in a row.
Twice a year. Yeah.
Was it over $30 million this year made box office?
So much money. And Coraline, and it deserves it because it's a fantastic film from Henry Selick all the way back in, 2009. Wow. We were teenagers still when this came out. This is a fantastic fable of a young girl, Coraline, who's tired of her parents. Her dad's a workaholic. Her mom's super controlling, doesn't seem to care. And she's given the choice of going into this magical world where her parents seem perfect and everything seems so good, too good to be true. The food's delicious. The home's amazing. Everything is exactly how Coraline wishes it would be in real life. However, that slowly turns into something much more sinister than she originally expected. This movie is so visually stunning. I love the animation. I love the world that Henry Selick built. It's such a great story from Neil Gaiman, and it's just a great adaptation of the material. This is become an absolute classic and such a beloved film from audiences all over the world. And it deserves all of the acclaim and recognition and success it's had because it really is outstanding. I love Coraline.
Next, we have The Mask of the Red Death.
Yes.
1964. Powerful film. Incredible visuals. Very theatrical. About this Italian prince who, since he worships Satan and devotes his life to evil, he gets to enjoy the high life as those around him, the peasants, are destroyed by the Red Plague. And it's really just such an interesting film. The contrast of red versus grays, red versus black is really prominent in this film. Whether it's the wardrobe, blood on the face, and I think just visually, just a stunning movie. I can't recommend it enough.
Great sets, and it's also an Edgar Allan Poe adaptation. We do have a few on here. I didn't realize. We got good at our jobs. We got Tim Burton back at number 28. This is one of my favorite Tim Burton movies, and that's Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. I think it's one of the best modern musicals as well. Johnny Depp, Helena Bonham Carter, Jamie Campbell Bower, Sacha Baron Cohen, Alan Rickman. 2007, this movie came out.
Long fucking
I can't
time.
believe that. And I was not really that big of a musical person, but this movie, I think this musical is the type that can transcend audiences if they aren't really musical fans. They can still really enjoy this film like people are enjoying Wicked if they're not big musical people. But Tim Burton crafted an amazing adaptation of the material. The songs are great. The cinematography is wonderful. I think this could be Tim Burton's best looking film, I would say. I would make that argument. It's really outstanding on every level. The craftsmanship, the artistry, also the costume design. Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter are great as the leads. It's super gross. It's super grisly and grim, but very funny at times and has an amazing kinetic energy to it with his filmmaking, and the musical numbers are super fun. I like how, even though this is a musical, it's not a very dance-heavy musical. It's more about blocking with actors to work with the music rather than them doing dancing numbers, which I think really works for Tim Burton's aesthetic. So I think this was an absolutely incredible film and just one of the best of that year for sure.
I would put Edward Scissorhands and Big Fish up there
For best looking
to compete with to compete with Sweeney Todd. Those are great looking movies. Big Fish is a really great looking movie.
It's a wonderful looking film.
It's just so different than the rest of his filmography. Mm-hmm. I think that's why people always leave it out. But it's about that time, Anthony. We have to take a break.
Oh, yeah.
We have to go to our intermission.
Wow.
Play some fun movie games. But then we'll come back and finish up our list of best Gothic horror movies of all time. And before we continue, the best way to support Raiders of the Lost Podcast is to it's to become a patron today at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. On Patreon, you get perks like access to weekly bonus episodes, access to the ad-free version of every single episode, exclusively for patrons only. Get access to our Discord. All kinds of cool stuff is happening on Patreon all the time. So go to patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast to sign up for any tier you want for as low as $10 for an annual membership. You can become a member of our Patreon.
That's nothing.
That's like 3 cups of coffee, unless you're shopping.
That could be 2 cups of coffee, depending on what you're getting.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point.
Especially in LA.
Another great way to support our show is to leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I love to read the written reviews out on Apple Podcasts because they're so much fun. They bring us so much joy, and they're often hysterical. People really get to put their flair on the show and get to hear theirs read out, which I will always read on the show live. These 5-star ratings and reviews help us get seen by new people. They're integral to our show's growth. They add reputability. And at 5,000 Apple ratings, I'm getting a tattoo, baby.
Oh, yeah.
But we need to bump those numbers up. But again, only 10% of our followers have even left a review or a rating. So, to the 90% of you that haven't,
what are you going to do, Jim?
Scroll up. Scroll up and just hit the buttons with your thumbs.
Please.
Hit the screen the right way. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews, and it'll help our show immensely. Another great way to support the show, just share us with your family and friends. Word of mouth is the best way for a podcast to grow organically. And we're all about USDA grass-fed organic podcast growth, baby.
No preservatives.
So, tell all your friends, family members, anyone who loves movies, send them our show.
This episode, of course, is sponsored by our friends at movieposters.com, the number one place to get your posters online today. Be sure to use our promo code Raiders10 at movieposters.com, and that'll get you 10% off your order immediately. They have a huge selection of pretty much every movie and TV show imaginable in their poster library, as well as all sorts of sizes, framing, and even backlighting for your poster needs. Now, guys, Christmas is next week. Did you get your gift for that movie lover in your life? If you haven't, guys, the best place to do that, of course, is at movieposters.com, the number one place for your posters. So if there's a movie lover or a TV lover in your life and they love a certain kind of movie, they love a genre, if they love a director, go to movieposters.com. You will find the perfect poster for them. Whether it be your favorite Hollywood modern blockbuster, to your favorite Hollywood classic, to foreign films, international, they got everything from original prints. They got lobby cards. They got alternate prints. If you want Revenge of the Jedi poster, all you gotta do is go to movieposters.com. Get that alternate print.
Oh, the old title.
Hell
That's
yeah,
right.
man. That's where you get it.
Yeah.
So for all of your poster needs, you know the place, movieposters.com, and our coupon code Raiders10, which is always working. Raiders10, get you 10% off your order right now.
All right, let's get to our intermission and start with framed.wtf, the website that gives you movie stills, and you have 6 guesses to guess the movie. First up, we have a movie still of the top of a building with a sort of glowing orb.
There's like some kind of like magical aura around this
I have
building.
a guess. Hold on, my thing's loading again.
I'm fucking blanking on this one.
Hold on, let me guess.
What are you saying? I'm skipping to the next one.
The Fountain.
Nope.
All right, next image, we're in a beautiful, what looks like library. Really extravagant building. There's a woman walking along it by herself. We see a bunch of empty tables and chairs.
I have no idea.
I have no idea either. I'm skipping this. Next up, we have...
Oh, I know what this is. This is, what's it called?
The Baz Luhrmann film?
No. The Golden Compass. The Golden Compass.
Oh, is that Nicole?
Yeah. Golden Compass.
Golden Compass.
Got it.
The Golden Compass.
That's what that glowing was.
The compass.
Daniel Craig's in this too.
Is he really?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen The Golden Compass, to be honest.
It's the so they obviously wanted to adapt all of his Dark Materials, but it just wasn't that good of a movie.
Well, he looks weird with a beard.
Yeah. Well, he plays like a very outdoorsman-y guy.
Yeah. So McAvoy plays that character in the show.
That is, yeah, it's McAvoy. Yeah,
thought so.
Or it might be Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I don't know. I've never seen either.
I can't remember. I'm trying to remember Daniel Craig's performance in that movie. I can't recall. But yeah, Golden Compass.
All right, let's get to our intermission. Continuing with the movie quote competition. Are you ready, Anthony?
Ready.
2 characters here.
Rise.
Do you know why I pulled you over? It depends on how long you were following me. Why don't we just start from the top? Here it goes. I sped. I followed too closely. I ran a stop sign. I almost hit a Chevy. I sped some more. I failed to yield at a crosswalk. I changed lanes at an intersection. I changed lanes without signaling while running at a red light and speeding. Is that all? No. I have an unpaid parking ticket. He pops open the glove box.
Liar, liar. He also has a photographic memory, I guess. That's a good one. I like that movie. The pen is blue. Okay, here's my quote. What the hell happened here? It hasn't happened yet.
This is getting a big resurgence on Twitter the last week.
Is it?
Film Twitter is just going crazy with Tenet.
Really?
Yeah, everyone's talking about it.
It's because of Simon Baker.
What about Simon Baker?
He said he was at an interview and someone asked him what's like a film, a modern film that you like more than other people or something. He's like Tenet. He's like people should study Tenet.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I think it's just like all over the place. Plus, Denis was doing an interview recently. He said that it's a masterpiece. I think Tenet's just so misunderstood, and we did a great episode breaking it down, explaining the fuck out of it. It's so complex. People write that movie off as not being able to understand it and think it's pretentious, but man, it's such a smart movie. It's really clever.
I think it's
and
great.
The filmmaking's so epic.
Yeah,
it's so epic.
It's one of my favorite modern movies since the post-COVID.
There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
It might be Nolan's most original movie.
Yeah. I think it is his
His
most
most
original
unique
movie.
original film. It's
Yeah.
not. There's not. Inception's up there too. Interstellar,
You
yeah,
can't,
but
you
there's
can't
so many
even,
space
you can't
movies.
even you can't even be like, oh, he was inspired by this movie with Tenet.
There's
You
really
can't
no
find one.
movie that's about time travel in that way that I can think of not using time as traveling to a different time period instantly, but more of just time exists. It's already settled
Inversion.
in whether or not you can travel
Entropy.
reverse or forwards through it. I think it's just so fascinating to make a movie about that.
Yeah. I think it's a fucking landmark. I think it's great.
I think it's going to age like fine wine.
Oh, yeah.
And all the people who hated on it in this era, they're going to look back when they're 50 and be like, I was such a fool.
Gave that movie perfect score. Woo! 5 out of 5.
We fucking drove to San Diego to see that movie.
We needed it.
Yeah, we need. What a time. Okay, Anthony. Guess this movie release year. Scream 2.
When did the first Scream come out?
You don't know when the first one came out? Oh, come on, man. You know that.
Scream 2, I'm going to go with 1998.
1997. One year after the original.
Okay, so 95 was Scream.
There before
96.
7 is 6.
Math is hard.
Not even math. It's just counting.
It's math. Math is counting.
No, but I didn't say minus 1. I said before 7 is 6.
Yeah, but you just said it's not math, it's counting.
Yeah, so just count backwards 1.
Count. What do you do in math? Do you count?
I mean, sometimes I guess. Yeah.
Come on, just say yes. Just say there's counting in math.
It's. I mean,
Just
we're
admit
at
to
the
it.
point where the numbers 1 through 10. You
Just
shouldn't
admit
have
to
to
it.
do math to figure out what's
Just-
1 less than 7.
No, I was thrown off by 98, and then I was like, wait, was it 96 or 97? There's a lot. There's 3 numbers happening. 3 dates. Dates and numbers. Anyways, what year did Kick-Ass come out?
Aaron Taylor Johnson's great superhero movie. This came out 2000 and this is definitely before 2010. No. Yes. 2011.
2010.
Nice.
You psyched yourself out of that one.
Well, I got closer than I would have.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Movie pop quiz time, Anthony. Speaking of Nicole Kidman, what movie does she co-star in with George Clooney?
Co-star.
Mm-hmm.
George Clooney and Nicole Kidman. That's a hell of a question right there. That is a hell of a question. The Astronaut's Wife. No, that's Johnny Depp. And it's not even Nicole Kidman.
Harry Potter.
Solaris.
No.
No. Fuck. What movie is this? They're like co-stars.
Co-leads
Co-leads.
on the poster together.
What? Oh my god. Wow, Clooney. It's a movie.
It's a film.
It's a movie.
It's a movie that was released in theaters.
Oh my god, what?
George Clooney and Nicole Kidman.
Have I seen it?
I have no idea. I mean, you see a lot of movies, so possibly.
I'm not sure if I've seen this one. Hold on, Clooney and Kidman. Kidman and Clooney.
Finkel.
I don't know.
The Peacemaker.
Never seen it.
It's about these 2 trains that collide in Russia, rural Russia,
Uh-huh.
and they're housing nuclear weapons, and then a U.S. government nuclear specialist, Dr. Julia Kelly, played by Nicole Kidman, believes there'll soon be a terrorist attack, and so she gets the help with this lieutenant,
To keep peace.
George Clooney, to track down the warheads and the culprits trying to steal
I've
them.
never seen this, yeah. Wow, good question. Wow, they are on the poster together, and they're running. Wow. Yeah, I don't know this movie at all. Mimi Leader. She did Deep Impact, I think.
Yeah,
She's like the disaster filmmaker. Wow. Holy shit.
Yeah, she's directed a lot of TV shows too.
Yeah, very successful female director. Wow, great question. You stumped the fuck out of me.
Let's go.
I was like, what is this real?
What timeline are we in?
All right. What did Aaron Taylor Johnson win a Golden Globe for? And do you know the category as well?
Is it drama?
Drama.
Anna Karenina?
No.
Did he win for
I'll tell you, he won supporting actor in a drama.
supporting actor?
Well, actually, supporting actor in a motion picture. They don't have comedy musical for supporting. So it's just motion picture for the supporting category. So, supporting actor, Golden Globe.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yes.
Is it the John Lennon movie?
No.
No, he's the lead in that.
He deserved it. However, he was snubbed for an Oscar nomination for this film. You want another hint?
Sure.
A fashion designer made this movie.
Oh. Fucking Nocturnal Animals.
Correctamundo. There we go.
Forgot he was in that.
Yeah.
Tom Ford.
Tom Ford.
Yeah.
Great hope.
Probably shouldn't be talking about him right now.
Yeah, I saw Shaq was like, someone brought him up on like the basketball show, and Shaq was like, "Not now, man." Shaq stood up and he left the set. Did he really? Yeah. I think Barkley brought him up, and Shaq was like, "Now's not the time, man." He got up and walked away.
Not the time.
All right, for unsubscribes, we got some good ones. A lot of roasts of me.
Oh yeah, let's get into these.
So I posted a story of my before and after glow up. Did you see it? You saw
Yeah,
it?
I saw your 21-year-old self. And
24-year-old
Wow.
self. Mom sent me like the Apple anniversary photos.
Yeah.
Like, she sent me a photo of me and her from 2014 with her, and for some reason I looked like a 15-year-old.
He does. I can confirm this.
I look like a child, but I was 24 years old. And so I did a split screen with a photo of me from last month. A pretty similar pose, both with a white shirt. And I said, rate my glow up.
What was the rating at?
Oh, let me pull it up on Instagram right now. See where it's
You
at.
did the heart meter.
Yeah, it's, let's see.
Imagine if they're all to the left.
The average answer is almost all the way to the right.
Nice.
Some people put all the way to the left. Cracked me up. It's so funny. And so I got some roasts for this.
Let's hear
Zachary wrote, "Shave the neck beard or I swear I'll unsubscribe." Brandon Bish, "Where's the chest hair?" Unsubscribed. Hiding it. Carl Picard wrote, "I've seen a better glow up. Mid unsubscribed." Now, normal subscribes. We have Chaz Michaels. Succession started in 2018. I'm going to have to unsubscribe.
Yep, we already proved
I thought it was
wrong.
2021 for some reason.
We got him. We got him, boys and girls.
Busted for that one. And that's it. We're already caught up. We just recorded yesterday. We're in a bulk record this week for my trip to Boston for the holidays. So we recorded yesterday. So no more unsubscribes.
We have a great 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts, though.
Let's hear it.
From Gypsy Danger 0006.
0006. I love it.
Their subject is Missionaries of Movies.
Oh, nice.
5 stars. If you're looking for hosts who stick to a script, pronounces everything correctly, and one of them is definitely not Ryan Gosling, then this show is not for you. James Jimothy and Anthony Antonius are the epitome of autistic kids
Epitome.
that made already nice.
Sorry.
Already living up to the hype of the review. Are the epitome of autistic kids that made their entire lives revolve around movies. But that's what makes them so likable. These bros make revisiting movies fantastic and exciting no matter how many times you've seen those movies. My dad and I live across the country from one another, but we always manage to talk about the latest episode of Raiders
Wow.
on the weekends. That's so
Wow.
cool.
That's great.
Thank you both for giving us something to bond over and for keeping the magic of filmmaking alive in a world that wouldn't appreciate it otherwise. You're not the podcast we deserve, but the one that we need. Gypsy Danger, one of my all-time favorite reviews. That was so sweet, so funny. Jimothy and Antonius. Yours is so much more badass.
Antonius, it's great.
Jimothy's fine.
Great.
But
Everything's cute. I'm just glad that we're
Antonius, you sound like an ancient Roman.
I know, right? An emperor.
Sounds Latin.
It's Latin as fuck. It is a Latin name.
Antonius.
Yeah, Antonius.
Yeah,
It's a Latin name.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that we're the epitome of podcasting. Sorry, I fucking burst out when you said that.
Well, it
Living up to the branding.
lives up to the first sentence, pronounces everything correctly. It's not for you. If that's what you want, if you want me to say epitome, then this is for you. Man, Gypsy Danger, thanks for the review. So
That's
happy
great.
that you and your father
Thanks, pal.
are listening to the show together and can chat about us. That's fun.
Hell yeah.
We appreciate it. All right, Anthony, what's your streaming recommendation for this episode?
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I can't. Hold on.
It's 2 episodes in a row you have not prepared.
I have it prepared. It's right here. I just can't remember off the
He's
top
not
of my
prepared.
head. Furiosa on Max.
It was pretty quick.
It's on my notes.
You probably Googled movie.
I didn't even. I slid. I just slid my phone. I didn't even click it.
You can't slide.
What does that even mean? What does that mean? What does that mean?
My streaming recommendation, which I prepared before the episode.
I prepared the hell out of it. I can't even open Max. I don't have it anymore.
I prepared before the episode. And had ready to go. The Revenant on Max. I'm the guy who does his job. You must be the other guy.
Go fuck yourself. I was prepared. I'm always prepared.
Are you prepared for the rest of the episode?
Of course I am.
Because we're going to get back into our best Gothic horror movies. And now at number 27, we have the original Nosferatu, which came out in 1922.
Wow.
Directed by F.W. Murnau.
102 years old.
Holy guacamole.
Wow.
This was the one that started it all. And, you know, if you've never seen this movie, I definitely obviously recommend you seeing the new film from Eggers. But then go back and watch this. It's one of the best silent film movies ever made. German expressionism was so fantastic. And this one's so creepy. And I think Eggers really connected to this old one really well. With the filmmaking, with the shadows, the use of them in this film. And I think that, you know, Murnau was probably the most influential filmmaker ever in a lot of ways.
Oh, we got another Murnau film on this list that's absurd.
That maybe many people don't know his name, but he's really probably the most influential filmmaker ever. Mm-hmm. And he changed cinema forever and innovated so many different things about filmmaking. I believe he's the first filmmaker to unlock the tripod and start panning and tilting and doing all different types of camera movements. I'm pretty sure he might have been the first one because, you know, cameras were just locked stagnant for years. And then he really changed things up, innovating. Let's move the camera. Let's tilt. Let's pan. Let's do all kinds of different things with the camera now.
That's because films were an extension of theater plays.
Yeah.
Same thing with the acting, and so the same thing with the filmmaking. It was an extension of plays. And so that it made sense that they didn't even think to move the camera.
Yeah, I bet you the first time brought up, they were probably like, what do you mean move the camera? What do you mean?
What the fuck is wrong with you?
FW.
Just shoot the fucking movie.
Shoot the fucking movie, FW. What are you talking about?
We don't want to watch Faust.
You want to move the camera? Keep it still, you idiot.
All right, it's time for the third Guillermo del Toro film on the list. He is just the master of modern Gothic horror. I mean, you can't argue with this. He really is.
It's so funny because we got to watch a Q&A with him last year.
Yeah.
And he's just such a funny, charming guy. You wouldn't expect
pleasant
him.
And so nice.
Yeah.
So nice.
But he's just so obsessed with macabre and Gothic and death and everything like that.
It's funny, my girlfriend, when I often write dark stuff, and my girlfriend's like, are you okay? But generally it's like happier people write dark material, and then like comedians are the ones who generally are darker inside and have like demons inside, and that's why they feel the need to make people laugh.
That's really sad.
So it's an actually ironic effect of creativity.
What if you're in the middle?
Then I guess you're
just in the middle.
Tarantino. All right.
You just have a God complex.
I think Tarantino has a little bit of a God complex.
A little bit.
Well, not a God complex, but he knows how awesome he is.
Yeah, he knows
he's not afraid to say it, which I appreciate.
Yeah, yes.
He's like, my movies are fucking awesome. I'm awesome. Whatever. I love it. All right, we got Nightmare Alley at 26, which came out in 2021. This is, I think, the most misunderstood. Speaking of Tenet, I think that Nightmare Alley is the most misunderstood film since the lockdown. I had never seen the original. I've seen it since. It's a brilliant film. But I absolutely adore what Guillermo del Toro did with this movie. It is a remarkable reimagining. The filmmaking of this film is absurd. Bradley Cooper, Cate Blanchett, Rooney Mara, Ron Perlman, just a bunch of great, phenomenal actors. And I remember when this movie ended, I was just like, I couldn't speak, and I was so absolutely enthralled and shook by it. I think it's an absolute brilliant piece of filmmaking. I think it's Guillermo del Toro's second best film, honestly. And I've seen it, I think, 3 times now. The reason why it didn't do well is because it wasn't marketed well. It's 2021, and it's almost 3 hours long. It's a very long film. And audiences didn't really react to it. It has a very average rating. It's a lukewarm response. It made no money at the box office. However, I think that this film is special. I think it's one of the most remarkable pieces of horror made of the 2020s so far, this decade. And I think it will stand the test of time. I can't say enough about this film, and I think it's absolutely a masterful piece of filmmaking. And Guillermo, he's just, to do this and to do the Shape of Water and Pan's Labyrinth, and it's just, the guy is so special, and I can't wait to see his imagining of Frankenstein.
I was really surprised when that movie didn't perform well.
Didn't perform well, bombed. Nothing.
I was really surprised because I thought it was incredible.
Yeah.
And I expected people to turn out because, it was a weird time. And not many great movies were coming out for about a year and a half. And Guillermo's dropping a movie, and I was like, why aren't people going to see this movie right now? It was really incredible. And Bradley's just superb.
What an ending. What an ending, man.
What a picture.
What a picture.
Let's move into The Innocents from 1961 about this woman who takes a governess job. However, there's some creepy kids.
This is a definitive example of atmospheric tension and beautiful production design and filmmaking. It feels like the shadows, there's no moving shadows in this film, but the shadows are put into the film. It feels like something could be lurking around any corner. There's great sequences of her wandering around the home. This is one of the most beautiful films on this list, and it's an absolute breathtaking piece of cinematic artistry. Innocence, and plus has a great conclusion. And then at number 24, we have a groundbreaking piece of early filmmaking, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the original film. This is a landmark for makeup, prosthetics, and performance. We all know the story of Jekyll and Hyde. This man creates a concoction. His idea is to free himself from any of the negative emotions that humans have innately within them. However, it has a disastrous effect of creating an alternate personality which manifests all of the negative emotions of a human being into an actual personification. And this is so ahead of its time. And like I said earlier with the early Universal films, ahead of the landscape and the cutting edge of filmmaking and makeup work. This has the famous shot of seeing his face deteriorate with the makeup and the lens filter that had never been done before and still looks fantastic. And then when he is the Hyde character, he's just the prosthetic work is amazing. And Melissa and Patrick helped design and make this facial mask, and I think it's just an absolute breathtaking piece of cinema.
I read the book for the first time this year.
Oh, you read it? Nice.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
Thoughts?
It's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
Fuck
It's fun. It's sort of just this great mystery of these two characters running amok, and people just don't understand what's going on at first.
You should read Dorian Gray.
Maybe I will.
Yeah, the Portrait of Dorian Gray.
I'll put it on the list.
Yeah.
After I finish Red Rising, baby. Red Rising's so good.
Yeah, Dorian Gray has not had a good adaptation yet, unfortunately. It's a tough movie to pull off.
Yeah.
There's been a bunch of tries.
Maybe someone will crack it someday.
One day.
Let's talk about Guillermo del Toro again. Crimson Peak.
He's all over this, baby. I love it.
2015. This was a great new horror film, and it was so stylish. Production design was stellar. Great monster design. Incredible cast. Mia Wasikowska, who's no stranger to this list, as well as Jessica Chastain and Tom Hiddleston, as well as Charlie Hunnam. Really, really great 4 leads here about this woman who gets newly married and then moves into a new home with her husband. She does have this ability to communicate with the dead, and she soon sees and is haunted by what's lurking in their home. But also, Guillermo shows you, besides, monsters aren't just supernatural, but monsters can be flesh and blood as well.
the sets in this movie are outstanding, and it's such a great supernatural thriller, but it's also a great romance. And this is I would say this is more a movie of a doomed love than it is of just straight up horror and supernatural. And it's just flat out phenomenal. I think it'll be more liked in time, I would say.
I wonder where they filmed it. Because that castle
They built that.
They built that castle?
They built everything, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they built all of that.
Because it's so gorgeous. Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's shot in Canada.
Yeah.
And this definitely isn't in Canada. This
Guillermo
building.
shoots all of his movies in Canada.
Oh, does he? Yeah, they have,
He likes the crews better. He says they're better to work with, and it's not just because it's cheaper, but he thinks that overall the film community out there is better in Canada than anywhere else.
Yeah, wow. And then also a lot of the exteriors were made with CGI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But the interiors, wow, they built those
All of
interiors.
it.
That foyer, oh my gosh, the hallways. What a beautifully built movie.
Yeah, it's all real. The whole movie's practical. All right, let's move into Dario Argento's Suspiria from 1977. This is an absolute masterclass of Gothic horror, slasher, witches, supernatural. Great score, amazing cutting-edge cinematography and lighting, way ahead of its time. It hasn't aged a day. It's still phenomenal. It's disturbing, great kills, great gore, fantastic ending, super fun. Everything about the Suspiria is great.
Suspiria is great. I like the remake a lot too. But now, let's talk about the original, The Mummy, from 1932, starring Boris Karloff. This movie, was one of the most famous and successful Universal monster movies. Pretty damn old. This is almost 100 years old as well.
Fucking A, man. It's
Holy effing shit.
It still looks great.
It still does. And, I like the mummy design in this movie. It's not like Imhotep in the newer version of the mummy with this deterioration. It's more of just like this stone looking, like you can really see the texture on his skin was done so well. It looks awesome. It looks so well. It looks so great in black and white.
The modern mummy is not Gothic.
Yeah, it's not. It's
yeah.
Indiana Jones.
It's an adventure movie. It's not Gothic at all.
It's too much gold.
Yeah. Too much warm lighting.
Too sexy.
It's too sunny.
Yeah.
There's way too much sun in that movie.
Too much sun, yeah.
It's not a Gothic movie.
But The Mummy from 1932 is obviously filmed in black and white. It's really sensational, and it still holds up today, I think, in a lot of ways.
Next up at number 20, we have the Australian horror film The Babadook, which is one of the best original horror films in recent memory. It's about this woman and her young son, and he's being tormented by some kind of entity, which she doesn't believe is true or not, until crazy shit starts happening. The Babadook was such a great movie monster, so original. I love the use of the picture book as a way of foreshadowing what would happen and helping the audience understand what this thing was. I think this is just an absolute masterclass of horror in the modern era. And I think if you haven't seen The Babadook, absolutely put it on your watch list.
Next, we have a great horror film from Chilean director Alejandro Amenabar, who you might know he's made some movies with Javier Bardem. He's pretty damn good.
Javier.
Now this movie stars Nicole Kidman.
And George Clooney.
Oh, he made The Peacemaker? The Others, 2001.
No George Clooney, I'm just joking.
Great, thrilling, psychological horror movie. It's got tons of great scares, and Nicole Kidman plays this very devout religious mother who moves. Classic story, moving to a different house in a different part of the world, different part of the country during World War II, and stuff starts happening.
It's not just stuff starts happening. Stuff happens.
Things happen.
Thanks for the synopsis, James.
Plot. Stuff happens.
Happens. Ironically, this is a PG-13 film. I mean, a PG film. But it works on every level. It's very spine-tingling and horrifying, and it's just got really one of the greatest twists of all time is in this movie, without a doubt. Oop. Next up at number 18, we have a very hard R, very bloody, Interview with the Vampire, with Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Christian Slater, Antonio Banderas. So many great actors in this film.
Don't forget little teeny tiny
little Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah.
Little cute Kirsten Dunst. This is a phenomenal film. It's just a great rewatch too, from the 90s. You have two of Hollywood's hottest leading men paired up together as long-haired vampires. I mean, you can't beat that. And I think this movie is really wonderful. It's highly entertaining. The sets are phenomenal. The production design. The story's so cool about this vampire who doesn't want to be a vampire, and his story from his ascension into the darkness to trying to dissipate his thirst to eventually giving in to who he is. It's got great world building. I love the secret societies of vampires in the world, and I think this is just an absolute mad dash of Gothic period piece ecstasy.
Next, at number 17, the newest release on this list from Robert Eggers, which is coming out and was released today. Is today Christmas?
No, next week.
No, I mean the day of this episode posting. Oh, never mind. Sorry, we're
Next
dropping
week.
this on the 18th.
Christmas is in 1 week.
Sorry, so this episode's on the 18th, and 1 week from today,
Yes.
Nosferatu comes out in theaters. And can't recommend seeing it in IMAX.
It really is
enough.
this good.
It's fantastic, so well done. Arguably, it might be Eggers' best film. The cast is sensational. Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok is gonna haunt your nightmares. The voice that he created for this movie, I couldn't believe to learn that it was unaided by any effects in post-production. All done by himself. Lily Rose Depp is a wonderful lead. Nicholas Hoult kills it. Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Emma Corrin, both terrific. This movie's sensational. Visually, one of the most stunning of the year. And we're doing an episode on the Monday after Christmas.
Yes.
So tune in on that date, which will be, I think, the 30th of December.
Yes.
Our Nosferatu episode will drop. But, man, we had such a good time seeing this in theaters. And I'm seeing it again on Christmas Day.
By far the best horror film of the year.
Yeah, probably.
I don't even think it's close, honestly.
Probably.
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Just burp.
Yeah, sorry.
I burp too. Twinsies.
Next up, we have the Italian film Black Sunday, also known as The Mask of the Demon, which is really a masterclass in filmmaking all the way back in 1960. It's about this witch who is killed by villagers. However, years later, she haunts the descendants of her family and tries to resurrect herself using the aid of her great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter who looks just like her. This is one of the most visually stunning films of the genre. It's beautiful. It's really macabre. It's great production. Sets are fantastic and really fun performances. And they really strike the horror chord beautifully in this film. It's a wonderful, wonderful old film.
Another vampire film, we have Let the Right One In from Sweden. This was remade by Matt Reeves a few years later, called Let Me In, but Let the Right One In is the original, based off a novel of the same name by a Swedish author. It's about this young boy who moves into a new apartment and discovers that in the complex, as he's just being a loner outside, he finds this young girl who lives there as well, but eventually finds out that she is a vampire who's immortal and stuck as a 12-year-old for her entire life. And it's about their romance and their love and trying to connect with each other. She becomes a protector for him in a lot of ways, but also the story about how she is protected by someone else and she is basically taken care of by someone else, but also how she has to let the urge out sometimes to feed. Really terrific movie. It's sensational, it's tragic, and beautiful at the same time.
Absolutely stunning. What a picture.
What a picture.
What a picture. Next up at number 14, we have the original The Invisible Man. Classic tale of a mad scientist who develops a chemical that turns him invisible. He panics and tries to fix it. However, as he falls more into madness, he embraces what he's become, more than human, and decides to try to take over the world.
Haha.
Amazing, amazing, amazing movie.
Back to Boris Karloff, who starred as Frankenstein's monster in several films. We have The Bride of Frankenstein, a direct sequel to Frankenstein. Now, this film introduces the new female character, the Bride of Frankenstein, who Dr. Frankenstein makes for the monster as a companion. And in this film, the monster is more intelligent. He's more educated. He has a lot more dialogue. He's not just a groaning, grunting beast who is chased by a mob. But this film, shows a great arc of feminism where the bride does not want to be the bride of the monster and wants to live her own life, and is absolutely terrific. We're going to get a new version of both of these movies. Basically, we're going to get a new Frankenstein movie coming out from Guillermo del Toro, as well as Maggie Gyllenhaal is making The Bride, which is a new Bride of Frankenstein movie, which will feature Christian Bale as the monster.
She don't need no man.
Basically.
Yeah.
This is basically what this movie is.
Next up, we have, at number 12, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari from 1921, 103 years old. This is the landmark of German expressionism. The setting is so macabre and surrealist, and beautiful sets as a man recounts his crazy memories of the death of a friend who he's accused of. And the exploration of psychosis, of madness, of the surreal are on full display in this film. It's an absolute breathtaking piece of filmmaking, and still one of the best silent films ever.
Let's talk about Francis Ford Coppola in his film Bram Stoker's Dracula, 1992, starring Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, and Keanu Reeves. Very similar story bones to Nosferatu, obviously, in the same realm, the same story, basically, but highly stylized, very surreal, super sexy.
Oh, yeah.
We got a hot cast. Keanu, Winona, and a younger Gary. Whew, hot cast. Great production design, incredible wardrobe. I mean, Vlad the Destroyer's suit in this, the armor, the red armor for Dracula is really fantastic, and I love Gary as Count Dracula in this. It's so fun. It's well shot, so colorful and vibrant and terrifying at the same time.
Yes, the filmmaking is so amazing, man.
Yeah.
It's so incredible. Next up, we have at number 10, time for the top 10. Got to put in The Nightmare Before Christmas. It is just one of the most miraculous pieces of filmmaking ever. One of the great animated films of all time. And this is like an early introduction to Gothic horror for kids, you know? As kids, there aren't many movies like this for you to watch, and this is really like the OG in the animated stop-motion genre. It still has aged like fine wine. It's a rewatch for everyone growing up, and it's the kind of film that, you know, parents will always show their kids from generation to generation. It'll live on forever, and it lives up to all the hype and all the praise, and it's one of the best animated films Disney's ever put out.
Next, we have what Anthony loves to do to me, gaslight.
Not true.
Always gaslighting me. 1944, a great thriller mystery about a woman who's picking up some strange intentions from her new husband after things start to happen. Strange footsteps, strange things. This mystery unfolds until it's almost too late upon discovery.
So her husband is gaslighting her into thinking nothing's wrong, and he's driving her mad. But he has ulterior motives to marrying her. He's got a plan. It's really great. Ingrid Bergman is phenomenal. I think she won an Oscar for this film. Next up, we have the other film from F.W. Murnau on this list, and that's Faust, which is the adaptation of the ancient story of the man who makes a deal with the devil to save his local town and local villagers. And essentially, Faust is the idea of an archangel makes a deal that a demon makes a deal with an angel that they can corrupt any kind of man. Anyone can be corrupted into evil. And so they choose Faust, who's a doctor, and the demon brings illness and plague to the entire community, and Faust can't cure anyone, but the demon arrives and says, oh, you can cure him if you make a deal with the devil. And so he ends up corrupting Faust multiple times throughout the course of the film and the story to prove that all men are corruptible by darkness.
Next up, we have Eyes Without a Face, 1960. A bit of a mad scientist film here about this doctor who causes this accident which accidentally gets his daughter's face disfigured, and he's riddled with guilt, and the local community think her dead. However, in order to revive her once beautiful face, he goes out at night and kidnaps and kills women to try to replace her face and graft a new face onto his daughter's face.
The original Face Off.
Take your face off.
Face off. At number 6, we have the original Dracula from 1931. It is an absolute historic and crowning achievement of filmmaking. This is, in a way, the OG great Gothic film. The gigantic sets, the beautiful lighting, there's nothing like it. It inspired so many of your favorite directors and the way they approached their filmmaking, from Eggers to Guillermo del Toro to other great horror directors. And it's one of the most important films ever made and probably the best of all the Universal horror movies.
Next up, we have The Night of the Hunter, 1955. Great film starring Robert Mitchum, who plays a reverend serial killer who targets women and meets a man on death row, a condemned man in prison, who confesses about having $10,000 in loot. And after his release, the serial killer, played by Mitchum, goes and finds his widow and attempts to infiltrate the family basically to try and get that loot.
This is the highest rated film on Letterboxd on this list.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, 4.3. And it deserves it. Spike Lee actually teaches this in every one of his film classes. And it's an absolutely striking and beautiful piece of filmmaking with one of the great villains of all time that nobody really talks about, Reverend Harry Powell. And it's a phenomenal piece of horror. Next up at number 4, we have Rosemary's Baby. One of the greatest films ever made, and an absolutely horrifying tale of demonic destruction. We all know everything about Rosemary's Baby. We did a great episode 2 months ago on it. If you want to check that out, 2 hours. No, it was over 2 hours. One of my favorite ones we've done in a while, breaking down the classic. And these kinds of movies will always live on forever. They try to remake them into different films and into TV shows, but nobody will ever capture the essence of what Polanski did with Rosemary's Baby. It's just a special piece of film.
Next, we have what we both believe is Guillermo del Toro's best film, his final film on this list, the remarkable, the highly original Pan's Labyrinth, which came out in 2006. Really, really great fairy tale, Gothic fairy tale, about a young girl whose mother intends to wed a captain, I believe. Yeah, captain in Spanish Civil War. And as she is sent to go live with him, with her mother, in their rebellion in the middle of the woods, she starts to experience strange things. She starts to see fairies. She starts to see beasts and gets embroiled in this adventure to basically save her mother. It's very, very tragic. This movie makes me cry like a baby. Ophelia is such a terrific lead character. It's so beautiful. The music's incredible. The visuals are unlike any you've ever seen before because it's Guillermo del Toro. And I just think this is just a remarkable film. It's a personal favorite of mine.
At number 2, we have Alfred Hitchcock. Did you know he made one of the greatest Gothic horror films of all time? He sure did. Rebecca, which came out in 1940, his first Hollywood film. His first ever one in Hollywood. And this is still, without a doubt, one of his best. It's about this young woman who somehow marries this guy who's very wealthy and charming. His name's Max. And they have this really quick whirlwind romance and are married pretty immediately. It almost seems too good to be true, and it kind of is, because when she comes to his estate, she discovers strange things happening. The wait staff, the help, are very, very estranged from her. They're very short with her. They don't seem to like her. And she quickly learns that she's replaced Max's widow, who died recently. And as this marriage is unfolding, she begins discovering strange things, frightening things, and horrific events, leading to an absolutely earth-shattering reveal in the third act of the film, which will have disastrous consequences for everyone involved. It's a beautiful film. It's one of his best-looking movies, shot in black and white. It's an absolutely stunning story. It's lived the test of time. 8.1 on IMDb, 4.1 on Letterboxd. It's legendary numbers. Check it out if you've not seen Rebecca. Do not watch the new one. Watch this one.
And number 1 on our Gothic horror movie list, we have a French film from 1955, Diabolique, about these 2 women. One is the mistress and one is the wife of a headmaster, this man that they both grow to hate, and they hatch a plot to take him out. Brutal film. intense scenery and imagery of murder, and just a fantastic movie.
Great twist too, where, and this isn't a twist, this is the setup. He disappears. His body disappears. What the fuck happened? It's oh shit! It's an absolutely delightful horror film with great performances. This is just some of the best filmmaking of all time. It's got, honestly, two of the most disturbing scenes of the era. They will make your skin crawl. The filmmaking is so helpful in building that tension, building that suspense with so little dialogue. It's all camera movements, set design, and performances, nonverbal performances from your actresses. It is an absolutely staggering piece of work. If you've not seen Diabolique, add it to your watch list. It's just one of the best movies ever made. It's just 4.2 on Letterboxd, 95% Rotten Tomatoes, 8.1 on IMDb. It's just really one of the greatest ever.
And that wraps our list of the best Gothic horror movies of all time. Hopefully we got you in the mood for the holiday spirit.
And for Nosferatu.
This is Anthony's idea.
This is my idea. Nothing says happy holidays like Gothic horror.
And we can't recommend Nosferatu enough on Christmas Day. I'm going to see it again. It's superb. And that's what got us in the mood for doing this episode, of course.
Yeah.
We saw it the other night. What a film. Really fun. We love this genre. We've always been drawn to horror. Anthony's a goth kid at heart, apparently. And we appreciate so many of these great films and filmmakers. And we hope this genre, this subgenre of horror, stays alive and well. So thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Be sure to become a patron today at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify and Apple. Subscribe on YouTube. And take care, everybody.
See you next time.